You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Fred Childers. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. Well, it's all about the midterms. Tuesday's midterm elections generated a lot more interest than expected. Voter turnout came in at more than 40%. Actually, in Louisiana, it climbed closer to 49%. When voters went to the polls on Tuesday for the midterm elections, they decided on all 435 congressional races. Now, ultimately, Republicans would lose control of the U.S. House, but maintained control of the U.S. Senate. Pollster John Couvion says he was optimistic after seeing the turnout for early voting, but the total turnout even beat his expectations.
It was incredible because I had thought the days of 1.5 million voter turnout in Louisiana were over. Yeah. The good news is it came back. And so I think that's something good to be said about Louisianians, is that when the conditions are right, they can and do go out to vote, even if you don't necessarily have anything electrifying at the top of the ballot.
On the Louisiana ballot, enthusiasm was generated from the contentious Secretary of State race, the 6 congressional races in which all 5 Republicans were reelected and 1 Democrat was also reelected, and the 6 constitutional amendments that we'll get to later. If recent special elections for Congress were any indication leading up to the midterms, African-American voters played a critical role in Tuesday's decisions. Black voters turned out in higher than average numbers for the special elections and helped swing some races. There's been plenty of talk about a blue wave, but Howard University professor Michael Fauntroy says you can't have that without minority voters.
The results from this election, whether it's blue or not, I think is almost entirely a function of what happens in these communities around the country.
Holly Holliday with the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation predicted black voters would be out in force. Exit polls painted a clearer picture as to what demographics showed up at the polls. Just a day before the midterm elections, the Press Club of Baton Rouge heard from political consultant Roy Fletcher. Now, he's worked for Louisiana governors, for 4 Louisiana governors and late presidential candidate John McCain. On Monday, he talked to the Press Club about the significance of the votes here in Louisiana and across the country.
One of the primary things that affects midterm elections is economics. Carville said it's the economy, stupid. That's to some extent true, but I have a corollary to that, and that is as the economy improves, other issues intrude.
All right, love a good corollary. For more information on the midterm election, just head to our website, brproud.com. Well, there were 6 congressional races. Here is District 1, where incumbent Steve Scalise faced several challengers, but as expected, the Republican Majority Whip held his own. You can see there he got 71% of the vote. His closest challenger had 16% of the vote. Now let's go to District 2. It features another longtime incumbent and the only Democrat in our delegation in Louisiana, Congressman Cedric Richmond. He has represented that district since 2011. He was challenged in the race by 3 other candidates, and here's what the numbers turned out. He got more than 80%. His challenger, Jesse Schmidt, got 9%, and the closest one to that was Batiste. He got 7%. Head on over to District 3. The incumbent has only served the Acadiana area in Congress since December of 2016. That's Clay Higgins. This was one race political pundits thought the sitting congressman might actually be facing an uphill battle against his 6 challengers. He did win that race outright. However, you can see there he got 56% of the vote. His closest challenger only got 18% of the vote. And on to District 4. The incumbent is Republican Mike Johnson. That's in northwest Louisiana. Of his 2 challengers, Johnson ended up coming out victorious because he got 64% of the vote. Like the others, he won that race outright. No runoff necessary for that as well. In District 5, another incumbent looking to win re-election was Republican Congressman Ralph Abraham. Now, he served District 5 in our nation's capital since December of 2014. Here's how the vote turned out. Ralph Abraham got 67% of the vote. His closest challenger got 30% of the vote. Finally, in District 6, Congressman Garrett Graves was looking to continue representing his Louisiana constituents. in Washington. He was facing off with 2 Democrats and an independent, and Graves won. You can see there he got 69% of the vote. The Democratic challenger, Jason DeWitt, got 21% of the vote. Well, this year's elections aren't over yet. Louisiana voters still have a Secretary of State to pick. After Tuesday, the field of contenders is a little more narrow, as our Capitol correspondent Harrison Golden explains.
Once a field of 9, the race for Louisiana's chief elections officer is now down to 2.
We're very excited about it. We're very excited about the positive campaign that we ran.
Republican Kyle Ardoin first on the alphabetical ballot and first in the voter count. He's angled himself as the incumbent, having served as acting Secretary of State since May and as the second in command for the past 8 years under Tom Shedler, who resigned earlier this year amid sexual harassment claims.
Rising above all the negativity that was put out against me and my record, I certainly am pleased that Louisianans have noticed a positive campaign and have recognized it, and we're moving forward with that.
Ardoin's campaign's starkly different from that of his Democratic opponent. While the acting secretary has spent about $250,000 on his bid, Gwen Collins Greenup spent less than $1,500, all without the state Democratic Party's endorsement.
And I'll use my business, legal, and government experience to take Louisiana Secretary of State office to the next level.
State Democratic Party Executive Director Stephen Handwerk in a statement, quote, "It's always a good sign to see a Democratic candidate resonating with voters in Louisiana," and Gwen Collins Greenup did exactly that. Louisiana cannot afford to have another year of scandals, inefficiency, and oversight that has plagued the office in the past. Collins Greenup would be the first African-American woman elected to a statewide seat in Louisiana. Neither she nor Ardoin have ever won elected office, and whoever wins that December 8th runoff will have to run yet again next year. For your local election headquarters, I'm Harrison Golden.
And as far as the candidates in that race who did not make the runoff, 5 are Republicans, 1 is a Democrat, and 1 had no party affiliation. Louisiana voters gave the stamp of approval to all 6 constitutional amendments on the ballot on Tuesday. Amber Smith explains what changes are on the way.
Louisiana voters checked yes to all 6 amendments on the ballot. Let's take a look at each. Amendment 1's passage means convicted felons cannot seek public office until 5 years after a sentence is completed. Amendment 2 garnered the most attention, requiring a unanimous jury for all non-capital felony cases starting the first of the new year.
It's a great day for Louisiana and for the cause of liberty. This is just enormous. The fact that Louisiana has repealed a law that goes back to the Jim Crow era, 138 years old, is just really incredible.
Amendment 3 essentially allows cities or towns the ability to help one another out with equipment or people with less red tape. Amendment 4 prevents transportation funds from a tax you pay at the pump from going to state police for traffic control purposes.
What we've seen happen since 1990, when the Transportation Trust Fund was put into place, there's been at least $700 million that has been transferred over to state police through this. And basically, it got used for a number of years to help pay our routine operating costs.
Amendment 5 allows special property tax exemptions for property placed in a trust. And Amendment 6 would create a 4-year phase-in of property taxes if a home's reappraisal value exceeds 50% in a single year. The Riverfront Neighborhood Alliance out of New Orleans sent out a statement reading, quote, "This small but meaningful victory for the People's Amendment shows what citizen-led effort can produce." For your local election headquarters, I'm Amber Smith.
By the way, some political pundits believe that those amendments actually motivated people to go to the polls. That's not normally the case. Now, to see all of the amendments listed in more detail, just visit the story on our website. That's brproud.com. A sales tax that would have paid for more resource officers at all public schools in Livingston Parish failed to pass in Tuesday's election. Sheriff Jason Ard pushed for the school safety tax to prevent potential school shootings. The parish school system currently has 10 resource officers protecting more than 20,000 students in this parish. According to the Secretary of State's office, 56% of voters were against this tax increase, while 44% of the voters approved it. Now, the tax would have cost residents $103,000 a year. There were also key mayoral races across the region. One of those in Livingston Parish, as incumbent Denham Springs Mayor H. Gerard Landry got reelected. And here's how the numbers broke down between Landry and Republican challenger Tom Berry. You can see Landry got 83% of the vote. Berry got 17% of the vote. Voters in New Roads also cast their ballots for the next mayor, and the incumbent there, Democrat Anthony Daisy, faced two Democratic challengers in that one. They will go to a runoff election. Daisy got 48%. Dukes, his closest challenger, got 47%. You can see Bridgewater got 6% there. In the city of Central, two challengers, also from the same party, were pitted against incumbent Republican Mayor Junior Shelton, who ran into some problems there. There was an upset in that race where David Barrow overtook Shelton to win. Barrow getting 52% of the vote. Shelton got 27% of the vote. And in Zachary, it was incumbent David Amrine against independent Jeff Ponders. Voters in Zachary have spoken and voted to keep Amrine in office. You see there, he got 67% of the vote. His independent challenger got 33% of the vote. Across the country, a record number of women will be part of our government after Tuesday's midterms. Both the U.S. House and Senate set new records for the number of women elected. Washington correspondent Alexandra Limon reports on who they are and the impact they'll have.
Election night was historic for women around the country and across the political spectrum.
Women led the way to victory, with at least 30 new women coming to the Congress.
California's Nancy Pelosi will likely once again become Speaker of the House.
Not only did we elect the first Latina from Texas to represent Texas in its entire history.
Voters also elected the first two Muslim and first two Native American women to Congress. Republican Marsha Blackburn will be the first woman to represent Tennessee in the U.S. Senate, and Republican Congresswoman Kristi Noem will become South Dakota's first female governor.
My mom is behind me, and so is my mother-in-law, Sharon, and they're probably the two most wonderful women you'd ever meet in your entire life.
More than 100 women will serve in the U.S. House of Representatives and 23 in the U.S. Senate, but that's still not reflective of the United States population, which is made up of 50% women. Democratic leader Pelosi says issues like health and child care are important to everyone, but female lawmakers should also focus on other things.
It's because we view every issue as a women's issue. We believe the national security of our country is a women's issue. The economic security.
Women also played a big role in flipping the House of Representatives to Democratic control, with 59% of women voting for Democrats, according to CNN exit poll data. In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
So for a complete look at all of our election coverage, you can head to our website. That's brproud.com. And coming up, we're talking to pollster John Cuvion to break down the numbers of the midterm elections. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Well, the midterm elections delivered several changes to Congress and even a few changes here in Louisiana. We had several items on the ballot. John Cuvion with JMC Analytics and Polling joins me now. John, what's the change on Capitol Hill now?
So what we're projecting to happen is this. In the Senate, the Republicans are going to keep control. We know that they've picked up 2 Democratic seats with the possibility of picking up 2 more. In the House, we are projecting that the House is going to flip to the Democrats for the first time since 2010. And we know of about approximately 20 seats that the Republicans have lost. There are another 30 or so that I'm seeing that are too close to call, but in quite a few of them, the Republicans are behind, and the polls had not closed yet in California. So we're expecting that you're going to have a Democratic House and Republican Senate.
Bringing things back here to Louisiana, we know there were a few mayor's races that were upsets, but we also had 6 congressional races. All 6 incumbents in Louisiana's congressional districts faced re-election last night. What happened?
So basically what happened is all 6 congressmen were re-elected this past night, which means that they do not have to face a runoff and they're automatically have been elected to Congress because they got more than 50% of the vote in the primary, some of which were crowded primaries, like in Representative Clay Higgins' case.
Now, the Secretary of State's race resulted in a runoff. Who's headed to that runoff?
So where we sit right now with the Secretary of State's race is that incumbent Kyle Ardoin has a narrow lead over Democrat Gwen Collins Greenup. The 2 of them will face each other in a December runoff.
You were very impressed with the early number voting. I'm sorry, the early voting number. So what has total turnout done?
So really what's been impressive to me, not just the fact that we had a record early voting turnout of 315,000, it looks like we're going to be looking at a 1.4 million or a nearly 50% voter turnout, which for an election there you don't have governor or senator or anything like that at the top of the ballot. That's quite impressive. So I do think that some of the interest in the national election filtered down here in Louisiana, even though we did not technically have any top of the ballot races to generate that excitement.
All right, there you go. John Couvion with JMC Analytics and Polling. Thank you very much. To check out all of the other results for all of the other races in Louisiana, just head to our website, brproud.com. I'm Fred Childers for your local election headquarters.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Governor John Bel Edwards gave an update on the master plan to save Louisiana's coastline on Wednesday. Edwards spoke at the Summit on Master Plan and Beyond, talking about where we stand now and where we go from here. His message was simple: inaction is not an option.
You know, it's the trifecta that's hitting us. It's sea level rise, subsidence, and coastal erosion all at one time. That is a difficult set of things to deal with, but we have to do it.
America's Wetland Foundation hosted that summit. They also announced some new projects along Louisiana's coast Wednesday. And Mayor-President for East Baton Rouge, Sharon Weston Broome, presented her 2019 budget to the Metro Council on Monday. The mayor's office says the $926 million budget represents a growth rate of less than 1%. In the proposal, the mayor focused on public safety, saying there's a study underway to evaluate police pay and the addition of the training academies. The Metro Council will vote on the budget on Tuesday. That's December 11th. A judge has denied another request to move a case from the Clinton courthouse because of a Confederate statue. The attorney for Ronnie Anderson says the statue of a Confederate soldier is offensive to his client. The judge says the statue has no bearing on what happens in the courtroom. Anderson still faces a possible trial on February 4th for illegal possession of a stolen firearm. His attorney, Niles Hamer, says he hasn't decided if they will appeal that decision. We saw developing news from the White House on Wednesday. It was confirmed that Attorney General Jeff Sessions is out. Sessions handed in his resignation later that afternoon. The letter says Sessions is resigning at the request of President Donald Trump. Now, Trump took to Twitter to announce Sessions' Chief of Staff Matthew Whitaker will take over as acting AG. Up next, we'll have a look at the week ahead on your local election headquarters.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. This Week in Louisiana Politics is all about giving you a preview of what you can expect in the coming week. Taking a look at the schedule this week, teachers' salaries will be discussed. Larry Carter, head of the Louisiana Federation of Teachers, will address the Press Club of Baton Rouge. He'll do that on Monday. He's expected to talk about the issues surrounding an effort to secure a pay raise for those teachers. Also, the deadline to register for the general election in December has come and gone, unfortunately. However, you can still register, online until the 17th. That's next Saturday. For information on how to do that, if you want information on the election that just happened, just head to our website. That's brproud.com. Thank you so much for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Fred Childers. I'll see you next Sunday right here on your local election headquarters.